know so-and-so on YouTube is using this exact same drone, except my footage looks terrible. My name's Christopher Claflin, and I'm gonna show you how to make sure that your footage looks as good as your favorite YouTuber who's using your exact drone, assuming it's a DJI drone, which is probably what you have. So here's the thing, this is really a two-part video, and part number one of getting great shots with your drone is making sure that your shots are properly exposed. So if you don't know how to do that, there's a video on the exposure triangle which will help you ensure that your shots are properly exposed, it's piece number one to this two-part puzzle, so a link to that video is in this description. In order to help you get better shots with your DJI drone, I'm gonna be showing you on my Mavic Pro. And after this video, your shots are gonna be looking like they were shot by a pro. So here's to you, professional. I hope I'm not too in your face. I've got a lens that is a really bad lens for vlogging. I ordered one that I thought would be great, but it's not for a full frame camera because I never learned how to read. So I'm gonna get the drone set up and I'm gonna show you what settings to set this at, and we're gonna fly it up on just kind of standard settings that most people fly their drones at and compare that to the D-Log settings, which you should be shooting on. Okay. Okay, so I've set the settings in the app to their default settings. So when you get this thing open, the first thing you're gonna wanna do is to go into the camera settings and select manual. Use everything I talked about in the exposure triangle to get your exposure right. Once you feel like your exposure is properly exposed, and you might have to adjust that once you get into the air, you're gonna wanna go into the settings panel for the video camera. And there, in the settings panel, you want to change color to D-Log. So basically what this is gonna do is it's going to give your video a flat profile, which means more dynamic range. When you look at a flat profile before it's been color graded, it looks really dull. It looks terrible, really, but it's the equivalent of shooting raw photos for a photographer. It gives you so much more information to work with, and later on in post-production, when you're in Premiere Pro or whatever editing suite you're using, you're able to color grade that footage to make it look however you want it. That's where that cinematic, where those rich colors come from, and those are the settings that you need to be aware of and set on your drone before you fly, before you shoot. And as long as your footage is properly exposed, it's not going to come out looking amazing, but it will be in a format that allows you to edit it to be truly amazing. I'll show you what I mean. So first, let's take a look at the footage that we get when the settings are on auto. Next, let's take a look at basically that same exact shot, except these settings are on DJI's D-Log Profile. So obviously when you're shooting in log profile, what you get right out of the box, so to speak, is not what you want. And so we got to get this back into Premiere Pro or whatever editing suite you're using to color grade it. So let's go do that, shat we? We shat. So the first thing that I want to do to make this friendly to apply a LUT over to give it that cinematic look is I want to color correct this clip, first using the Lumetri scope, which is basically going to tell me whether or not I have a properly exposed image with a full range of blacks and whites. The first thing I'm going to do is bring down the saturation to give it an even more flat profile so that I can apply my LUT later,
and then I'm going to adjust my black and white balance to give me a full range from 0 to 100 over on my Lumetri scope. I want a full range of blacks and whites, and you can see over there, as I adjusted that, it brought the range down to 0 on the blacks, and I'm close to 100 on the whites. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the vector scope, which is going to tell me whether or not my colors are properly balanced. And you'll notice that in that vector scope, I've got quite a bit more of that white paint splatter kind of on the yellow side of things. So I want to bring my midtones more towards blue. Basically what you want is you want that white little paint splatter to be as even as it can be within that color wheel so that you can apply your LUT later. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to pick a nice fall looking LUT, and that is what you're going for. But you won't get this if you just put a LUT over footage that was shot on auto or footage that hasn't been properly color corrected and balanced for whites and blacks. The last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come into my curves and adjust things a little bit more to give it some contrast and really make it pop. So now we'll take a look at the before and after, and as you can see, it's pretty dramatic. My exposure was a bit off, so this isn't the greatest clip, but you can see that you can go for all sorts of looks.
So there you have it. If you want your drone footage to be cinematic and rich in color, the only way to get that is by shooting in D-Log if you're on a DJI drone. And you can follow me on Instagram at Christopher Claflin. And thanks so much for watching the tutorial. It was awesome to have you. I'll see you when I see you. You know how it is. Peace out, people.